Welcome to Truth Stream. Today we are here for the first time with Sherri Divband. We're very excited about this because she's an intuitive, and for those of you that follow Dolores Cannon, there's components of her background that are resonate with that, but also her background is started with being in the animal world. And so yeah, let's go with that. She'll give you her background and then we'll let this unfold organically as we usually do. So welcome to Truth Stream, Sherri.
Well, thank you too so much for having me on your platform today. It's an honor for me to join you both. We just met, but I feel like we already know each other, talking a little bit beforehand. So it's nice to be on the channel. So yes, I am a registered veterinary technician by trade. So what that means for those people that don't know kind of all the fancy names, it's essentially a nurse for animals. So when I was very young, I'm talking high school age, I was going to work with animals for my life. That was kind of, I was that kid that knew what I wanted to do. I actually wanted to be a veterinarian. And so when I was really young, I started working in a vet hospital as a kennel tech, the one that works in the back, walks the dogs and cleans up the mess and everything like that. And I was happy to do that because one thing about me, I'm a driven person. So if I am going to do something, I'm going to do it 100% and work my butt off. And so I became a technician, a vet assistant very fast, like within a couple of months, which was unheard of. And because I really wanted to work with animals, and I was really dedicated. And so what I learned, interestingly, though, as a 17-year-old young woman, in high school, working at this vet hospital, coming in on my day off just so I could watch surgeries. I mean, it was unbelievable, some of the stuff that I did for free, and I just volunteered my time, was that I noticed I liked the work of the techs better because they got to really interact with the animals. The vets had to talk to the owners, and then next thing you know, they tell, all right, the tech, you go do the blood work, the x-rays, this and that. And I thought, well, I want to go do that stuff. That seems like more fun. And they got to hang out with the animals and really have a bond with them. And so I really had a distaste for the veterinary role pretty quickly. And so that's what I did. I ended up just going into the nursing outlet, and I did that for over 20 years. I worked in general practice. I did intensive care in the ICU for many years, working in surgery and post-op, and with life ventilator cases. I mean, I've seen some animals in some pretty rough situations, which was really hard to do that. But I really loved being that person that could help be with that animal on their journey back to wellness. It was a passion of mine. I loved it so much. And then I went into zoo medicine. So I worked at the National Zoo in DC for about 10 years as well. And I got to fulfill the dream of working with wild animals. And I'm obsessed with elephants since I was, probably 12 years old. And I wanted to be near the elephants in any way I could. So I went to the zoo to work with elephants. Even though I was a nurse in the hospital, I would find any excuse to go to the elephant house. And I did a lot of special projects in the elephant house because I was such a good employee, and they would find ways for me to go in there. And so, yeah, animals were a very big part of my life. I grew up very shy, young woman or young girl, only child, a lot of some traumas in my life, which I talk about in my book. And I really I looked at animals as my friend. People intimidated me, they hurt me, they lied to me, they took advantage of me, they bullied me. I moved around a lot as a child, and so I never trusted anybody. And so it was always the animals in my life that I gravitated towards because I had my own pets, which changed my life. And so I wanted to return the favor, right? So I was like, well, I'll be an animal nurse, and I can help them the way they've helped me. And that was all I was going to do. I would have never done anything else. I studied animal communication. I started an animal communication business for a while, and I did energy healing. I only learned energy healing. I only know Reiki to this day, which was the gateway for so many other things for me to learn because of animals, because I wanted to, working in the ICU, use the animals in some very rough positions. And I always thought there has to be more we can do for these animals just besides the drugs. And we gave great care, but I thought there has to be more than this. And so I learned Reiki for the animals. And so that's kind of about 20 years of my life that I spent with them. And then I started slowly working with people, which I can get into, but I don't know if you have any questions about the animals first.
Well, I could just fill up the whole show with elephant questions alone. I recently, I've got an old senior Malinois, and she's you know, with her different issues, I've had to make some different phone calls. And I recently discovered some veterinarians in the area that do more they have a more holistic approach. They do acupuncture and whatnot. And I was thrilled because I had a friend years ago. I knew her all through her vet tech program, and she went on to do surgery on beluga whales and panda bears and really, you know, all over the world, really exciting things. But everything she told me about the industry kind of soured me on the industry, especially when it came to dogs and cats. And I don't know, it's encouraging to know that there's a lot of other folks that are embracing some of these other methodologies that I think are probably a lot more effective with the animals.
Well,
Yeah,
oh,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
well, I was just going to say, I do want you to talk about a little bit about, for those people that have animals and love animals, what are the animals' roles in our lives? You know, is there a mission, that kind of stuff? But we can, you know, talk about in a moment.
And that soul component.
Yeah, I think that'd be really good. Before we move on, I think that'd be really good for people to understand what that role is that the animals have in our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an extremely important question, and so I'm glad that you're asking it. And I learned a lot of this information that I'm about to share with you through my animal communication sessions. And even before then, when I was a child, I used to communicate with my German Shepherd, and she was like the love of my life, my best friend, everything. And I learned, we learn a lot from those that we love and that are selfless and love you unconditionally, no matter what. And so what I've learned, and it does contradict what we have heard, the narrative that we've heard for many generations. And that's, the MO of that souls have to go up the hierarchy chain, and we evolve from, cell to rock to this, that, animals, and then we make our way up to human. I believed that too when I was growing up. That's what I was told, and that's what I believed. I said, I never question it. But then when I started working with animals, even at a young age, not even professionally, I knew in my heart that wasn't true. And I said, there's no way that these animals that love us unconditionally, no matter what we do, no matter what we say, no matter how we are dressed or how we look or how much money we have, they express a level of unconditional love that I personally, at that point in my life, and even until this day, you don't see with other humans, human to human, because of the programming that we can talk about later in the show. And so I knew that they had more substance than we were told. And so what I've learned is that animals are souls just like us. Then they choose to come in. So many of the animals that are our pets. Now I have to explain this very carefully, because there's two routes we can go. There's the wild animals, and then there are the pets. So pets are evolved souls just like we are, that are in our soul network or our soul family, that say, okay, I am going to come in and I'm going to be Sherri's dog from, for this decade, roughly, a little bit more or less, to help her through a really challenging period of time, because I know she's going to need companionship, protection, love, all of these things. So it's somebody that I know that we've had other lives together. We know each other on a soul level, and they volunteer to come through to be a dog or a cat or whatever animal you need, a bird, whatever you contracted ahead of time. And they come in and they fulfill that role. And we know each other. So soul to soul, that's why some people can look at their animal and they just have a love that they can't identify in words. You just know each other, even though maybe you just met, you're holding your puppy for the first time, and you feel like you're looking into their soul, and you know each other, because you do. And they come in selflessly, not to learn anything. I mean, they're experiencing just like us. So it's they're getting something out of it as well. But truly, they're here to help us. They take on our disease. So they, a lot of times they will come in because they're natural healers, and they will take on our stress, any trapped emotions that we have in our body. They will absorb them for us, and they will heal us. But sometimes they take on too much and they become ill. Sometimes they even sign up to get the cancer that we were going to get. We didn't know we were going to get cancer, but it was in our body. And a dog comes in and says, I want to take that cancer from you because you have a lot of life to live, and I'm going to do this for you. And so they do. And then the animal dies. And unfortunately, the owners will have guilt and shame, thinking, oh my gosh, I should have done better. I could have done better. And what animals tell me is that, no, that's not true. I came in. This is what I came in to do. I came in to save your life so that you could keep on living. So the best thing people can do in that situation is not live in shame and live their life to the fullest and do everything that they never could do because of whatever blockages or limited beliefs that they had, and let that animal not die in vain. And these are the things that they do for us. So they're quite evolved souls. They come in, and that's why they have short-term contracts. They come in and they are here for a shorter period of time. Dogs are here, they truly are man's best friend. That's why God spelled backwards is dog. They're here to be our physical companions. They physically sniff out negative energy. So if someone comes into your property or your home, they're the first ones out there. They will make sure that it's safe. They will assess the physical world. And they will be around you all the time. They want to sit on your lap. They want to sleep in the bed with you. They want to be with you all the time, regardless of what mood you're in. Sometimes you're just like, can you leave me alone? But they just love you so much. Cats are a little bit different. They're more astral. So they're working in the astral realm. So when they sleep 20 hours a day, they're not being lazy. They are out there and they are ghost busting. They're doing all sorts of stuff to get spirits and demonic entities and things away from your property, away from you, your children, your family, whomever lives in the home. So cats work a little bit differently, but they are evolved souls, and they're in your family. They know you. Now, wildlife is different. So we have herds of animals. Herds of animals have an oversoul group that is one main soul, and it fractals off into hundreds of thousands of zebras or giraffe, things like that, because they're not here to be a companion with somebody. So they don't necessarily need one soul to come through and have an experience. It's a collection of souls, like an oversoul group, and then it fractals off, and so there are many. But that's not to say that someone and some soul can say, I want to be a lion and come in and live a life of a lion. There's so much more to this. We could speak about it for hours, but that's kind of the very abbreviated version of what they're here to do for us and the exceptional things that they help us with, which is why I dedicated 20 years of my life to working with animals before I would even consider working with people, because I wanted to cherish them and give them the love and respect that I felt that they deserved. And many times I didn't see them getting that back. When I see them out in the public, the way that people treat their animals, they act as though they're so unevolved and they're worthless and they're dumb and they don't know anything. And that's couldn't be farthest from the truth.
Right. And that's commendable that you dedicated so much to that. I love it. And what you had to say about the soul connection, Lily, my Malinois, she was in a kill shelter, and I got a phone call because I'd inquired about a Malinois with a friend, and she said, "Oh, you'll never find one of those in rescue." And I said, "Well, my last Malinois was a rescue," but she called me up like 3 months later, and she had this dog. It was a Dutchie, and I had to decide within an hour. I had an hour. There were no photographs. There was no video. There was no meeting her. I just had to decide, or they were going to kill this dog. And so it took me about a half hour. And I was in a small apartment at the time, which if anyone knows the breed, that's a crazy decision to make, but I did. And when I met her, like there was a crowd of people, there was a group of people, and they were just shocked because it was like we knew each other immediately. And they were just thrilled because it was like, well, this is meant to be, clearly, and we really were connected right from the get-go. It was amazing. So, and she can read my mind all the time. It's pretty funny. She's kind of sarcastic, actually. She's a little bit, she's got a funny personality.
They do. They're just like us. They have personalities. They have likes. They have dislikes. And they can be boggled down by 3D interference. So when we talk about that later on, they're in it with us. They're in the 3D just like us, and they struggle just like we do, and they are targeted just like we are. I talk about this in my book, and I haven't spoke about it much publicly, but I believe as part of 3D interference, allergies were developed so that because I call them the dark players. So there's a lot of names for the characters out there that try to program us, indoctrinate us. They have many names. I call them the dark players. It's just easy, and it doesn't have a stigma yet, so I can't get in trouble for saying it. At least not right now, until it becomes a thing. So they created an allergy against to separate. They know that these animals, what they do for us, what they can heal us, they can open us spiritually, they can do so many things for us, even on the astral realm as well as the physical. And they don't want us to have that kind of companionship, that kind of love, unconditional love in our life. So they created allergies so that it would separate us, so that we can't, many people say, oh, I can't have an animal because I am allergic. that's part of 3D interference. They did that on purpose in order to separate us from our companions. And that's just another deceit, another 3D interference to separate us from our loved ones.
Yeah,
Wow.
that makes sense. Well, so I do want to say, you know, we met Sherri through Kevin Hoyt and the Grassroots Warrior Network. And but let's segue into you. So you become feeling a lot more comfortable talking about these topics in the last few years. So maybe let's talk about how that came into play and why you're able to talk about it now and the importance of it. Just like, you know, Scott and I were reluctant to do this at first, but you know, it gets to the point where you just feel it's not even a choice, you just have to. So we'd love to hear more about that for your experience.
Yeah, great question. I mean, I've tried to play by the rules, you know, most of my life. I didn't want to get into trouble. I've always been a good girl. You know, I've had my rebellious phase, but I try not to rock the boat. And so when you go into the spiritual realm at all, you already become that person in your life where people either are very uncomfortable or you're like a circus show and they're like, oh my God, you can talk to animals and then they won't leave you alone. And so I kind of have been dealing with that teetering on that fence for quite some time. So when I was working at the zoo around 2012, a little bit before 2012, but 2011, I really started to come out more because of my children. They were the spiritual awakening that I had. So 3 children, 3 different awakenings, and that really opened me up spiritually. And I started to tap in more to my gifts. So when I was at the zoo, I really started to investigate more, and I became that person where they were either like, "Oh God, that's Sherri," or they wanted to know everything I knew because they were interested. And it really wasn't anything in between. I either made people feel uncomfortable and they didn't want to be around me, or they just wanted to know everything I knew. And so I kind of got used to that. But see, it started to teach me to segregate my life. It was almost like, you know, there were people I knew outside of work that didn't know anything about me that would come into my life, and they would know me for years and have no idea what I could do. They didn't know that I would be writing books, that I was doing energy healing sessions and psychic readings with people. It was like I was living a double life because I could tell the people that were open to it. When I lived in Maryland, not to knock that area, but you know, it's one of those areas where they're not really open to a lot of that stuff. It's very, you know, you guys know, I don't need to say. And so I had to keep my mouth shut and I had to hide that side of myself. So when I decided to come out and start my own YouTube channel about 3 years ago, it was right during the pandemic period where I was like, you know, I was very well known in Bethesda, Maryland, because I opened up and I finally decided I'm going to open up a wellness center. I'm going to do this. I'm all in. And so I would host spirit circles and I slowly started to get comfortable, and more and more people started wanting to know what I had to say, and they found value in that. And so that's when I wrote my book, my first book. And I thought, you know what? I feel like I'm saying the same things over and over again. I might as well go on YouTube and start seeing if other people are interested. And then it just kind of exploded from there. And then I started getting interviews. And so I slowly started sharing more things. But I was sharing with both of you before we recorded, even with my first 2 books, I felt like I played it very safe. I was very careful about the words I used, how I said things, because again, I wanted people to like get their toes wet and just become open to the idea of some of these things. But I never said everything I wanted to say. And so when I started writing this book about 6 months ago, I was like, that's it. I am feeling a strong push and a call that this information, people are hungry for this information. People are ready for this information. And the ones that are ready and open, they are the ones that are going to read my book. And I can't be afraid about all the other people and what they think, because the people that need it now are ready. And I shouldn't hold this information for myself. And so I just put it all out there. And I thought, well, as I was writing it too, there are times where I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have to go in hiding. Maybe I should use a fake name. And it's not like I was attacking anybody. I'm very professional. I'm very careful. I've never said anything bad about any particular name. Very careful. I do have class and integrity, but just some of the things I was saying, I'm like, this is going to rock the boat. And I moved past it. And now I'm here. And I'm here to talk about everything that's in the book, and I'm ready to see what happens as a result of it. But I'm confident that it's going to go well, because I think people are genuinely ready to hear the information. And like we talked about earlier, people are coming out all over the place talking about their SRA stories and all sorts of things, and they're being very brave. And I think this is the time for this level of disclosure. I think people are ready for it.
That's
I think
fantastic.
so too.
Yeah.
What is the name of your latest book, your third book?
It's called Starseeds and the Great Awakening.
Okay. And now we talked a little bit in the pre-interview that you're here, you've shifted now, and your focus has been on children, and you're working with Starseeds, which and the children that are Starseeds. We'd love to hear more about that as well.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's kind of what I'm known for in the community now and that's kind of why I became, people became interested in what I had to say, because I was talking about children. And so when I started doing healing sessions on adults, I navigated over time, it navigated to parents, because I did hypnobirthing, which is a childbirth education class on more natural birth, which is a whole other 3D interference topic. And through that, I started to attract, I believe, or energetically, divinely guided, probably, a lot more parents looking for help for their starseed children. My child has a lot of these gifts. They're seeing these things at night. They're having nightmares. Can you help them? And that's how it started. And then I would get a lot of nonverbal labeled autistic children, or children with Asperger's, or children with ADHD, and their parents didn't want to medicate them. And they were like, all right, I'm done with the traditional system. I'm ready to try something else. Can you help him? Can you help her? So I don't have to do those things. And then it just exploded. And now over the past, 5 or 6 years, I've really dedicated a majority of my sessions with children and starseeds and helping them navigate this reality, because the topic gets very woo-woo. So again, right now I'm either going to lose people and they're going to say I don't resonate, or they're going to say I want to know more. And that's kind of the reality of where I am right now, and I'm okay with that. But a lot of starseed children are here to be a part of this great awakening, or the ascension, whatever we want to call it. It has many names, and they come here as evolved beings from other planets, and they're living their first life as a human being, and it's very challenging. They are quite evolved, they're high vibrational, and so as a result of that, they're struggling. And so that's where we get these labels, and that's where the focus of my work has been, on helping guide them in this 3D world, as we all transition into this 5D world, and what's our role in it, and what's their role in it, which has led to education. So I wanted to create a metaphysical center for children many years ago, and I talk about this a lot, so people have heard me say this many times before, so I'll just be very brief. My third child came to me a year before I was pregnant with her and told me she was coming, and said, I need you to help me with my mission. Can you help me? And I channeled her for almost a year before I was pregnant, throughout my entire pregnancy. And she said, I have a very large journey and I need you to help me with it. And now she's 8 years old, and she is part of the Aramis Creative Learning Center, which is the metaphysical center I thought I was creating was wrong. And it was actually, I'm pioneering a completely new educational system for children all over the world. And I named it after her because this is what she wanted my help with, and she will take it over one day. So, talk about a journey where you have no idea what's coming. And I think that was by design, because I look back at the version of me 15, 20 years ago, and if they said, Sherri, do you know you would be doing this? I would have been like, nope, I don't want to do it. Someone else, I volunteer somebody else. So it happens in a way, all of our awakenings happen, and when we're ready for them, and then we evolve and we grow spiritually and maturity, and we learn, and then we're able to take more on. And so that's where I am now, where I'm like, all right, I'm ready to take this on. I'm ready to put a book out that's going to be controversial. I'm ready to stand up and fight for children, because I'm evolved enough now that I can handle it. And that's where we are today.
How cool. God, that's amazing. Children, I mean, when you have a metaphysical or spiritual conversation with a child, it's almost effortless by comparison. There's just, they don't have the biases. They have such an active, imagination, and they can see things we can't see, especially before they hit 7. They really know more than you do, about that
They
realm.
do.
They really do. And it's so exciting. That's got to be really gratifying to
You know why the age of 6, 7 is the age that everything changes?
Let's hear
Are
it.
they still multidimensional? Aren't they can still see all the other
Yeah.
dimensional elements?
So they're very multidimensional when they come through, and they're not anchored in their body. So they're still integrating soul energy essence into the physical body for many years. It takes them a while, which is why they can see so much more than we can, because they're in and out of the body with ease. And so it's around the age of 5 that they start to really anchor in the body, meaning their soul really starts to move into the body and stay as much as possible. Now, we always actually travel when we sleep and throughout our life, depending on, who we are and what we're here to do. But they really say, all right, I'm moving in around 5, and then 6 years old is when you're truly anchored in the body. And then the programming and indoctrination starts to work on them, because now they're more susceptible because they're anchored in the body, and they have the illusion. They don't see through the illusion anymore. And there's no accident that the indoctrination camps, which are schools, start at 5, 6 years old. They know that, and they want to target the children before they're anchored in the body so that they lose that connection faster.
Wow, what a shame.
Wow.
And I just had the thought yesterday about how children are just there's so much wisdom in just their presence. Like you take any topic, like the topic or the idea of racism or something, and then you see, children of different races and so on, and it completely neutralizes that, I think, and it neutralizes so many otherwise negative things that we face as adults. You either see it through the eyes of a child, or you see it exemplified by a child, and it's like it just softens our souls. There's powerful medicine, to be around. They really are, and I think they teach us more than we teach them in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. Children are our greatest teachers, and you don't even have to have children for that to be true. They come in here and they are the teachers of this world, because they're imaginative. They're not closed off. They don't have the biases, like you mentioned. They don't have the limiting beliefs or the programming yet. And so they see it how it is. They don't lie. They're taught to lie, or they learn to lie through survival. But they are problem solvers because they think from the right brain, not the left brain. We're trained in the left brain through school, so that we second guess our intuition and we only go with the cognitive side of ourselves. And we should have balance. We should be able to do both. And it's another part of the system.
Yeah, that's why they do go after our children. And on this topic, so you talked about how they go after us through the water, the air, food, toxicity, etc. What are some of the things that we may not be aware of, maybe some of us are, about the other ways they go after us, frequencies, etc.? We'd love to hear some of that.
Yeah, there's so many. I'll give you the synopsis. Obviously, I go much more in detail in the book, but some of the big ones right now that people should be aware of is ET interference is one. Some people are calling it voice of God technology. I just started calling that recently because so many people are saying that, but it was introduced to me through sessions with children as ET interference. And so what that is there is a bandwidth or frequency that's given off worldwide, globally, through satellite, through 5G towers, through so many mechanisms you would have no idea, through your phones, your TVs, every electronic devices, where it emits a frequency 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that are negative affirmations. So I hate myself, I'm ugly, I'll never be good enough, my mom doesn't love me. Any negative thing that you could possibly think of. I want to kill myself, I want to kill somebody else, I hate you, I hate everybody. And so how it works is, because we're all energetic beings, so our frequency is contracting and expanding all day, every day. It's just the nature. I could go out right now and get cut off in traffic and get upset, and my frequency goes down into anger mode, frustration mode. Then I come home, my dog licks my face, and then I'm super happy again, and it goes up. That's how we fluctuate all the time. And that's normal. That's part of the human experience. But what they do is they prey on us being in a low vibration. So if we match the frequency of I want to kill someone, or I hate myself, your body will pick that up as it's your own thoughts, because your resonance matches the resonance. So they don't care who picks up what frequency, where, when, what gender, where you are. They can target areas with certain things, but their goal is to have those imprinted thoughts, so that you're thinking something that's not actually true. They're not your own thoughts, and they're sending these to us in the hundreds of thousands. There's algorithms that you wouldn't even imagine that have so many different negative affirmations constantly bombarding. That's why people I don't know if you remember, but a lot of people talked about when the pandemic period with the shot, and people who were like, I'm not getting this shot. And there was people that were admitting that they were having thoughts in their minds, even though they didn't do it, that they were like, maybe I should get it. And they were like, whoa. And people started talking and they're like, yeah, I got it too. That was a negative affirmational frequency that was being sent to convince people to do something they wouldn't normally do. So a lot of psychopaths that are labeled psychopaths are just getting frequencies left and right of hate, hatred, all of these things. Now, the reason I learned about this, the first time I learned about this, is because there was a child that would scream and cry kick and scream and cry every single time they had to go to school. And the mom reached out to me with desperation. I can't live like this anymore. Can you please find out why my child is acting this way? Kicking and screaming. I mean, it wouldn't, I think it was a boy, I can't remember, so many clients I've had, but he wouldn't stop. So I asked this child, because in my session I communicate telepathically, because a lot of the children are nonverbal, and so I'll communicate with their higher self telepathically, just like you would do in an animal communication session. And what I learned, and what he told me, it was that there is an energetic grid around every single public school and many private schools and universities where they emit negative frequencies that target children. As soon as they walk in the door, they are not able to connect with their life force energy because they're bombarded with these negative frequencies constantly. And it helps to hypnotize them so they're more suitable for indoctrination and programming. And the fluorescent lighting has something to do with that as well. And on top of that, they're getting these negative affirmations all day long. My mom doesn't love me. My parents hate me. I'll never be good enough. I'm not good at this. And he was like, it was so loud that he said, I couldn't think. I couldn't even think. And it scared him, because sometimes they'll tell you your parents hate you, or just horrible things that actually scare the children. They also will scare them. And I thought that was the first time I ever heard that. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I didn't even know how to tell the mom because I was freaked out myself.
Sure.
But 10, 11 children later, I'm like, okay, there has to be validity to this, because these are children in Australia, Canada, all over the US. They don't know each other. They don't talk to each other. How could they possibly know the same things? And this is how I learn a lot of the things that I talk about and I write in my book is there has to be some validity to these things if I'm hearing it over and over from children that couldn't possibly talk to each other. And you don't see these things in TV shows. And so that's a big one. So this 3D interference, or this 3D ET interference, I apologize, is going on everywhere all the time. And it's very disconcerting, very disruptive, and people don't recognize that the negative thoughts that they're having are not actually their own, because they're coming from these frequencies.
So you said ET interference. So this is coming from a non-human source.
Well, so how it was explained to me is it's ET technology. So it's something that has been brought here. It's not our technology. So that's why it was called ET interference to me, because that was how they could explain it. Is it called that? I don't know what it's actually called, but that's how they explained it to me.
It seems like a lot of this stuff was born out of the well, like MK Ultra, and so many of these horrific practices were born out of the relationship with the Nazis, early on. And there's all the stories of the Nazis entering negotiations with some off-worlders, and how that kind of led to the downfall. There does seem to be a pattern that happened after 1947 that we haven't escaped yet. So, that may very well be. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So another big one is black box technology, which there's a lot of things that mean the same, but this particular technology works through the TV portals. So people don't realize that the reason why TVs were pushed very much in the last 20 years is because there's technology being used. So all these flat screen TVs, and everyone has 5 or 6 of them in their home, and they're everywhere, all over the nightclubs, restaurants. They're affordable now for everybody on purpose.
Yep.
Because they are actual portals. So the technology, it's technology that they use, that when they are engaged and they're plugged in your home, it creates a portal. It's a mechanism. So when you turn it on, even if it's off, they are portals. And I've seen them. I have a story that I share in my book that's quite embarrassing, but I've seen it myself, and the TVs will morph into portals, and demons and entities can come through, and that's how they access your home. So they access your home through the sleep state, but also we bring them in as hitchhikers inadvertently a lot of times, and then but their best way for them to come into homes is through the TV. So they'll come in through the TV, but also smartphones, computer screens, monitor screens, tablets, anything. That's why it's called black box, because anything in a black box technology like that that has radio frequency waves and how it works, it creates this portal, and you are consenting to it inadvertently. You don't realize it by buying it. You know, they always find a way to trick us into consenting. We watch a movie, that's our way of consenting to what they're going to do. This is our way of consenting, is purchasing them and putting them all over our home. And that's their backwards way of allowing us to say, sure, I have this portal in my home, please come through and target my children and my pets and anybody in it. And it worsens too if you're watching something like a scary movie or anything of a low vibration. I mean, you can see, well, Netflix was like the top 10 were filled with murder, devil, this or that show. I couldn't even believe it. I'm like, it's clearly, it's very clear what they're doing. But when you watch that in your home and you get scared or whatever, those portals activate even more, and then they will come through into your home.
Hey, you know, this reminds me of a something I saw on a Riz Flex episode earlier, in the week. She aired a clip from a new Disney show, where the character is talking about her growing up. I think it's in the introduction of the show or something, but she's like, yeah, after watching ritualistic murder from my cult leader father or something like that. This isn't a program designed for children. It's a cartoon. You know, and when I look at some of the stuff that my friends' kids watch, some of the video games, and it's incredibly morbid, or they'll be into really morbid stuff, and it's like, where are you getting this? What's being fed to them? I mean, it's shocking, really. But we digest so much input, so much information, so much data, media, that I think we just we get anesthetized to it. We get it doesn't
affect us. They
shocking is not shocking. Nothing shocking. Change addiction.
Well, you know what? I just saw Sound of Free Light. I saw it like the first day it came out. I can't tell you how disgusted I was watching people stuff their face with popcorn and candy while watching that movie. And that's the world that we live in, though. People are desensitized that they're watching children being trafficked in a movie that's very sad and very serious. I mean, my stomach was in knots the entire time. I couldn't even drink anything, let alone, I mean, these people were like thinking, like, was this a funny movie to them? I don't know, but that just shows you the level of programming where they desensitize us from young children. Every Disney movie, somebody's parents, one of the parents dies or something traumatic happens to them, and they start very young. And then they see people die in a movie, and it's like, nah, no big deal, and that's part of the programming. And that I couldn't believe, because I don't know how people were eating food while watching something like that, but I'm not surprised at the same time.
Well, gosh, you got 50 kids a weekend getting shot in Chicago, 50 people anyway, on average. And, you got to wonder how that's impacting these developing minds growing up. And when you see why is that the case, it's quite deliberate. They've created a situation in which that's happening, almost like in an experimental city or something. It's bizarre to me.
Well, even one of our friends, I'm not going to say her name, but her sister is, I believe she's a teacher, and she, I talked to my friend, and I'm like, well, what does your sister think about the whole trans thing? And she's like, she's all on board with it. She has friends and their kids are trans, and I'm like, but do you not see how this might age in like 5-10 years when these kids have mutilated themselves and now they want to maybe switch back? Like it just goes, they're just going along for the ride like it's just normal. And it's like, how do you guys not question? And I see this with a lot of teachers now, not to badmouth on teachers, because there's a lot of great teachers out there, but there's this indoctrination, there's this arrogance, there's this holier than thou, and they just think, well, we're teachers, we're responsible, this is what it is, and this is how it is. And I'm just sitting there like, How do you guys buy into this? This is really actually scary that they're completely indoctrinated and going along with the narrative. And I find it horrifying, frankly. Any insight on that? How they're so easily brainwashed and they go along with this?
Yeah, well, that's my chapter called The Woke Agenda. And I'm very passionate about the woke agenda because it's a very real thing. And there's a lot of explanations for the woke agenda. And it's again, it's one of it's their narrative. It's their attempt to sabotage and promote a lot of these extremalities, extreme modalities. And it starts with um, breaking up the family unit. And I talk about that a lot in my book. And I say they're starting with breaking down the family unit because they know that if they can single out our children and they push the children away from their parents, and now they glorify the teachers and their friends as their new family, then they are able to bypass that strong, those family values that I had when I was younger. You know, I'm an 80s kid, and so I'm not that old, but I'm not that young either. I feel like I'm kind of in the middle of two worlds. But I remember growing up seeing all of that. You know, in the 80s when you watch like 90210 and those older shows, you know, like maybe there was one gay person, and it was kind of like a ooh, you don't talk about that. And then it started to get glorified in the TV shows that I watched, where okay, then it became cool. And then you felt like, you know, I remember feeling, yeah, good for them. Like they should have some rights. And I was passionate about it. And I was buying into that narrative. Now, I do believe that they should have rights. I just don't believe that they should be pushed on others. That's the awake agenda, but we'll get into that. That's being awake. But woke is about pushing something extreme, these extreme values for their own agenda. Being awake means that you are awakening to your potential, your innate knowing, your ability and compassion and unity. But there are boundaries and nobody pushes anything. There's no cult-like mentality. But woke agenda is the complete opposite. And so they break up the family unit by promoting divorce, number one. They devalue the family structure. And, you know, back in the day, again, it was like a no to get divorced. Then it moved into it's okay to wow, they have divorce parties now and blended families that have now gone from blended families to these what do they call it now? These uh there's another word for it where it's not just the blended family anymore. It's the communal family where the friends are now part of the parents and no one's in charge. Everybody's in charge. So you see how they slowly, now there's nothing wrong with divorce. There's also nothing wrong with being gay, but you see how they push the boundaries slowly over time. And then before you know it, you look back and you're like, whoa, they did a number on us. That's how they do it. They do it slowly. So imagine these young kids being born now and not seeing what I have seen, or many of us have seen our whole life, and see the slow progression of manipulation and programming that we have seen. They don't see that. All they see is, oh, everybody should have rights, but it's extreme, extreme, extreme. And what they don't realize is the transgender movement is just another step away from transhumanism, but they don't see it. We see it because we have seen so many other things and we're trying to help them. But this extreme mentality is pulling them, and they don't trust their mom and dad anymore. Mom and dad doesn't know anything anymore. There's no family unit anymore. You know, they push sex, which is a whole other sex magic topic that I talk about, and how they manipulate us with sex to loosh off of us and to create a divide. Everything is about creating a divide within the community. And they're really good at it. They know exactly how to do it. They know how to manipulate. And so these teachers feel like, yes, I'm on this high horse. And the problem with human beings and what sets us back and what keeps us in 3D is that we have an ego. So the ego serves a purpose. It helps us identify that we are individuals, so that I'm Sherri and you are you, and we have a separation. So we have our own human experience, but ultimately we're all one. We're all connected. We're all light. We're all family. So the ego helps us differentiate between that. But in this 3D, the ego can lead us to power manipulation. We want power. We like popularity. We want fame. We want money. And you dangle those things in front of people, and many people change because they forget the roots of who they are, the foundation. And that's happening in the spiritual community right now. How many people who started out with a positive message and they really wanted to help, and who have changed as a result of their popularity or the money that's come through or the attention that they get. Many people are not the same as they were before. So this temptation of this little bit of power people are given shows a lot about their spiritual evolution, how mature, how evolved they are if they can handle it. And many of these teachers cannot. And they are buying into all the programming, the woke agenda programming. And it's a really big mess. And it's about us getting strong foundations again and reclaiming our sovereignty. That's where we are right now. And that's why these topics are so important to talk about, because people need to see the steps, all the things that have gotten us to where we are. If you look back, it's clear. But if you're wrapped up in it, you don't notice it. You're too close.
Wow.
Yeah, very well said.
Yeah, I remember when I was considering getting back into teaching, and a friend of mine told me, Scott, you'd hate it now. You have to stick to this road curriculum. You can't deviate, and so on. And it just sounded awful. It just sounded absolutely awful. And now it's, we're several steps past that now, where it's they don't have time to teach civics or meaningful health or any of these things, because they're too busy with the woke agenda. It's all about division, whether it's race or gender or any of the other highly inappropriate things that they're teaching. And the thing, and you might have something to say about this. So in my experience growing up, prior to 13 years old, I didn't have much of a sexual thought in my head. I didn't have the hormones for it. So for me, it was about
You were a normal kid.
paddling the canoe around a lake and catching turtles with my golden retriever. It was
The
about
turtle thing gets me every time.
yeah. It's that. Well, you did that a lot. It was a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
It really was good time. I let them all go, but but then I hit 13, the hormones hit, and then that's when the sexuality became relevant to me in a big way, mind you. But like all of us, and but now, I mean, they're really sexualizing kids that can't possibly understand. So, but they get a lot of attention for it. So, children seek attention more and more now because the parents are more and more distracted, and naturally they're being schooled to interpret what their kids are saying in a very permanent kind of a way, and it's terrifying to think of how these kids are going to be affected later.
It truly is, and the hypersexualization of the children is a big problem. And every single TV show, I can't even. There's nothing comfortable I can watch with my daughter anymore, who's about to be 9 years old, who's very vulnerable right now. And the shows that are supposedly age appropriate for her, the parents are the ones sexualizing the children in the shows now. I watched 2 shows back to back where the mom was literally teaching her teenage daughter how to give oral sex, using hand gestures and everything on Netflix. And my daughter was watching it, and I had to turn it. I'm like, this is so inappropriate. So they're hypersexualizing children. They're normalizing sex at a young age with the clothes and everything about it. And these children are vulnerable, and they do that again because of sex magic for many reasons. If you can fractal the soul from a young age through trauma and through sexualization that they're not ready for, because that does it as well, then they are much easier programmed later on in life. And then those are the teachers that are so fractaled and so traumatized from their own experiences that you give them a little bit of power and they don't know what to do with it. But it stems from these young children and what's appropriate for them and what isn't. And the sex magic is a big thing. We know that a lot of the dark players survive and thrive off of the loosh of people, which is our energy. So any low energy of fear, of power, shame, they feed off of it like food. It's energy. So when we have young adolescents running around rampant all over the place, and even young adults or any adults that are hypersexual, and with the porn industry and all of these things that they've inserted into the 3D to keep us sexualized, and the shows are promoting, they're not even promoting monogamy anymore. It's not even cool to have one person. Every single show right now is about the transgender movement and not having one sexual partner. It's cool to get divorced. All the kids don't have solid family values in these shows either, and they're shaming the parents that aren't going along with it, because then the children think this is how parents are supposed to act. They're supposed to be cool with all of this stuff. And they're feeding off of our loosh of these sexual encounters that we're having. That's why those dating apps were invented. You think that was for our benefit? No, it was for us to get matched with the people they want us to get matched with, and then we can have these sexual encounters that they can loosh off of. Because true sex magic is a very powerful thing. When there's a unification of two people that love each other, regardless of gender, of just two people that love each other, whether they're married or not, but there's true passion and love, you can create powerful spiritual energy with the unification of two beings that love each other and are having an experience. And that energy is very powerful. So they try to replicate that in their way by looshing off of many instead of one good. They're going to loosh off of thousands and millions all over the world through hypersexualization. And it starts with the young ones. If they could get them young, they can get them old. And it's just a part of their agenda. That's part of the woke agenda as well.
Yeah, people don't even really date anymore. From the conversations I'm having with people, they're it's hookup culture, and a lot of the young people are really indifferent to it, so they're just not having that part of their life take place, and there's a lot of pressure to be something other than just a straight person. They often feel pressure to say they're bisexual or something just to fit in, when the majority of them are probably not. But that's how far we've come with this, and that's really out of balance. Right or wrong is one topic, but balance is an entirely different one, and that's clearly out of balance.
Yeah. Well, you hit the nail on the head. I can't tell you how many teenage clients that I have that told me, Sherri, I wish I was gay. I wish I could be bi so I could fit in with the other kids. I want to be cool like that, but I'm just not. I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with these young women. They've all been girls in this case, this example. But it's a real thing. They want to fit in. Because they glorify it on TV. You're not cool unless you're gender fluid now, and non-binary. I don't even know the terms. They have so many of them now. And they want to fit in so desperately that some of them will lie and pretend. And then they're not living their truth. They're not in alignment with their truth.
Yeah. So you've got the school, you've got the TV, and then you have the subliminal messages. I mean, when we were kids, it was just hard enough to be a kid and go through switching schools for me. I mean, and then Scott switched, I don't know how many schools we went
high schools alone.
Yeah.
Moved around a lot. Yeah.
So there's just, and now there's the pressure to, don't tell your parents. I mean, I was talking to a firefighter. I'm not going to say this guy's name. He said, if I had kids and he's an ex-firefighter, and he goes, and someone was going to regender my child, there'd be a funeral to go to. Like, he would not put up with this shit. And we have so many parents, and I'm not saying that they should go out and do that, but we got to stand for kids. It is cool to be straight, because do any of these gay or trans kids, and if they are whatever, but they're not coming from the unity of, we're all coming from the unity of man and women, right? I mean,
at the present time, men and women create more humans.
Yeah, you can't.
They're working on an alternative. Though.
Some kind of growing babies in pods or whatever. But it's just like
transhumanism.
Yeah. It's mind.
That's where they're going with it. That's where they're going with it. And we shouldn't have to explain these things to our children. Like, I signed on my daughter for an art class. Again, this was back when she was 7, and in Maryland before we moved. And one of the questions is, what's your pronoun? I had to, Mommy, what does that mean? What's he, she? And I had to explain it to her. And I got so mad on the form. I said, she's a girl. I literally wrote out, she's a girl. But why do I have to explain that to my 7-year-old, what that means? Why is it when I filled out my financial aid paperwork for my son to go to college next year, it asked him if he's a male, female, or non-binary? Why do we, they're implanting these suggestions. And, of course, my 18-year-old is old enough. He knows what's going on. But my 7-year-old, I don't need to explain that to her. And this is what they do. They make it come to the surface of their awareness, whether they want it or they understand it or not. They don't care about that. It's not about them. It's about the agenda and what they're pushing.
Yeah. Well, we have roughly about 10 minutes left, and I want to make sure we get to any components or topics of your book, and maybe you can share the screen or whatever you'd like to do for that. That'd be great, please.
Yes, good. Keeping track on the time.
I have to.
I'm never good at that. Okay, hopefully I'm opening the right window.
I'm definitely not good at that.
Yeah, we see we saw your website there.
hold on. Sorry, that was the wrong one.
That's okay.
I'm excited to read this book.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you guys see this?
Yeah. That's your Amazon Starseeds and the Great Awakening paperback.
Yes.
Oh, just
Yeah, it just came out.
Wow.
Yeah, I was literally just released a couple of days ago. You know, the editing takes longer than the writing the book itself. It's unbelievable. So it's taken months to have it edited and formatted. But it's called Starseeds and the Great Awakening. So navigating 3D interference, healing the soul, and shifting humanity into the golden age. And it's separated into 3 parts. So the first part is about New Earth children, what they're about. I talk about my story. I get intimate details of my life. And I talk about Starseed children and the different types of children and the mislabeling of autism, Asperger's, ADHD. I go into all of that, and it's relevant for adults too, not just the children.
Oh.
And then the second part, the meat of the book, is the 3D interference. I go through in detail all of the things that have come to me in my sessions, the compilation of things that I've learned. So it's like over 20 different topics, like I talked about today, and many more. And then the third part of the book is the future. You know, what are they showing me in my sessions that's coming into the future? And this isn't one of those like I'm prophesizing. I'm not trying to be Sylvia Brown, but it's really just me sharing what I am seeing that's coming through the collective, through my sessions, because I'm seeing the future of this group of people and what they do within the health industry, leadership. I call it leadership. We're not going to have politics in the way that we know it now. You know, the health industry, the educational industry, all of that. I talk about all of that. So it's a good one. I'm really proud of this book. And I put a lot of information in it that I am brave. I'm being brave and putting in this time. This is Aramis Creative Learning Center. So I am the founder of Aramis Creative Learning Center, which is a holistic and alternative approach to learning, where children come first. So this was started 2 years ago, right in the middle of the pandemic. And it's it's right now, it's only an online opportunity for children of all ages. And we have classes that are metaphysical based all the way to esoteric, and then, you know, spiritual science, mindfulness, math. We have everything. We are having a summer break, so there are no classes right now, but it's all virtual. And I have a nonprofit called the Aramis Collective, and we work through donations. So everything that we do funds the school, and I have 7 children's books out right now that are here to help children learn the things that they should be learning in school, and not the dogmatic things that they're learning in the books. So we have animals our first school will be in West Palm Beach, Florida, and we'll have animals, we'll have healing and wellness, and children get to choose their own classes. There are no hierarchies, there's no grades, there's no testing. It's a whole platform. So I recommend people check it out and read it. And if they want to support us, you can donate through the website, through the Aramis Collective. It's a nonprofit to help fund education for children all over the world. We're looking to do a free platform. This is a humanitarian project that I foresee having an Aramis Learning Center in every state and in almost every country that's open to it. And it should be free. This should be a free platform for children to be an alternative to public school, where children come first, and the teachers are vetted. So they're mentors. We call them mentors. And they get to participate in the learning. There's no curriculum. So the children decide what they want to learn. The mentors help facilitate that. The parents are involved, and it's a much more cohesive way to learn and to teach. Here are the.
I just had a quick question.
Yes.
So, because I know that there's a lot of parents struggling with, you know, wanting to take their kids out of school and homeschooling. And I love that you said this is only available online. Would this be, since it's online, if a parent was struggling, would this be a great place for them to go to, you know, start doing some kind of homeschooling so their kids can start learning? So, I mean, because we're wondering what these alternatives and the options are. This seems like it would be right up there.
Yes, good question. So a majority of what we attract are homeschool families right now. So they'll take classes as part of their school week, and the parents will say, okay, a couple, you know, my child will take 1 or 2 classes a week, and that will substitute a couple of hours of their learning, and they enjoy it and they have fun, and they really get something out of it that they want to learn.
Wonderful.
And And then it's also extracurricular. So for kids that are in public school, but they really love crystals and they really want to learn about ET and galactic civilizations, then they can take a class, for fun. We have pre-recorded classes for those that can't make it live. And so, here's a sampling of some of the classes we would have. Getting to know your guardian angel, extraterrestrial UFOs and galactic civilizations, journey of a starseed, light language for children, enchanted forest meditation, empowerment through movement, period positivity, so girls can learn more about their periods, nutrition, how to navigate the world as a starseed. So, there's a lot of different options for them to explore.
This is fantastic.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm just, we didn't know
I'm
what we were
excited about this.
We didn't know what
yeah.
we were getting into, because we haven't we just, through the Grassroots Warrior Network, we're starting to meet some of the other anchors, if you will. And man, you fit our show beautifully, I gotta say.
Definitely. I'm curious. It looks like you've embraced some of the Steiner principles a bit, like sort of a Waldorf approach, where the child's curiosity is at the center of the learning.
Exactly. I'm taking every approach and we're making our own. And so this is like nothing like you've ever seen before, because think about a university style platform where you have a catalog of classes and the parent and child sit at home and they decide what they want to take for the month. And this is how the in-person center will run. If they want to be out in the field with horses and the animals and do animal science, or do painting with the horses, or animal communication, or they want to learn energy healing in the healing unit and working with sound bowls and crystals, or they're really into science. Maybe they want to learn science and math. Then they choose the science and there is no minimum or maximum requirement. They don't have to take math if they don't want to. That's how our learning should be, where there's no curriculum, there's no government facilitating the learning and saying what our children have to learn and then test them on it and then all this memorization. They should learn because they're passionate about something. And I guarantee you, if you give them a choice, they might choose math, but maybe they're learning math through cooking. So it's a cooking class, and they learn through measurement, or they're learning a lot of math through science classes and experiments. So we're trying to re-establish the learning environment for children where it's very holistic, organic, and no curriculum, because I believe that it should be fluid and just kind of holistic and natural. And as we go, we see what works. And if it doesn't, then we try something new. And that's how all Aramis centers, no matter where it is in the country or the world, it will operate like that. So it will be ever evolving. No one can buy our curriculum because it is ever changing. And we have to, the mentors are the most important part. I am very particular about who we have mentor our children, because they have to be on board with children come first. You are their mentor, you are their guide, but sometimes we got to give them the stage so that they could teach us a little bit. And it's a two-way street. And we need to respect them just as much as they respect us. They shouldn't be afraid of teachers. No one should be afraid of their teacher. And they are majority of the time, because it's this very hierarchical structure where you respect your elders and your teachers. And yes, of course, that's important. We're going to instill those values, but it's a two-way street, and the children are just as important as everybody else. And they're not valued in that way in most of society as we know it today, especially in the school system. They need to sit and listen, and that's it. They don't have a say, and we're changing that.
Well, and they're taught a bunch of lies at school for the most part anyway. So.
Oh yeah, well, that's a whole other thing. Yes.
Sounds like you're more concerned with teaching them how to think than what to think.
Exactly.
That's a good thing. Yeah, a real good thing.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you want to say or that you've left out? Or obviously, where can people find you? The website, of course, but you're also an anchor for the Grassroots Warrior Network. So anything else you want to end on, that'd be great.
Yeah, I am an anchor on the Grassroots Warrior Network Wednesdays at 8 p.m., but I am stepping back just to take a little bit of a break so I can focus on some preparing classes for September. Like I said, Aramis is taking a break. I'm giving the mentors the summer off, and so we're going to come back in September. So there's a lot of planning involved in that. But you can find me at sherridivband.com. I have my own other healing website, and that's where I work predominantly with adults. I do soul readings, intuitive coaching. I host webinars. I have one coming up August 6th on animals. So everything we talked about today about animals and more. All of my books are on Amazon. I have 3 books and I have 7 children's books out. Those are all available on Amazon. They'll slowly start coming available on Barnes and Noble, but that process is a little bit more challenging and less intuitive, so it takes time. I also have a YouTube channel under my name. I'm on Instagram under my name. I'm on Twitter under my name. So you can find me a lot of different ways. And if anyone wants a session with me, they can do it through the website. If they want to learn more about Aramis Creative Learning Center or the nonprofit, they can go on the aramiscreativelearning.com website. And yeah.
And we'll make sure we put all those links below.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Well, hang out afterwards. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll definitely have Sherri back down the road. So thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.